glance it once again and tell you there were few points on it. These are all problems. Anyway, since we, in order to continue, keep the continuity, we say a little bit. I think you just give me 1 minute. I'll close this. It's a terribly cold day. Amaya. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. As I told you regarding the Adhyasa, there was one page. What was that? Now in 90 page number 90. Just a minute. This is giving trouble again. One Purvapakshi. Now without giving much introduction, directly go into the topic. Whatever I have to say, I'll say in the next class. Tomorrow, next class. Okay. Now let us see one Purvapaksha. Nanu ahamartah eva atma bhavatu kimatra aham pratyayinopi adhyasa varnanena. This is a good question, you see. You, Vedantin said, even the aham pratyaya is also adhyasa. Aham pratyaya means the notion of I. What is referred by the notion of I? Or simply you say I. When you say the word I you use, whom are we referring? By the word I, whom are we referring? We are referring to individual. Okay. We are referring to the individuality only. So, in deep sleep, I exist. But I exist, but the way I exist, that is not available. That cannot be referred by the word I. See, this is a strange thing. In deep sleep, there is existence. There is my existence, but the way I exist in deep sleep, that cannot be referred by the word I, because it is neither subject nor object. Sushupti is a non-dual, and non-dual has no reference, no relativeness, with either a subject or object. See, subject and object are relative. Object is an object that is a known with reference to the knower. Knower is a knower with reference to the known. In other words, subject is a subject in relation with an object. Object is an object with relation subject. Deep sleep is such an experience, such a self-existence, where neither subject nor object exists. Subject objects are relations. Okay. So, Sushupti is an experience free from the subject-object relationship. Subject is a relativeness. See, note this point. Subject being a subject is a relativeness. Subject is a given thing and in relation with the object. Isn't it? Subject is in relation with the object, and the subject is something in contrast with object. Subject is also a relative thing, because subject is in contrast with object, and subject is something, subject alone and not the object. Therefore, subject is a something, a given thing. Subject is something. Why do you say a given thing? Because it is not object. It excludes object. Therefore, subject excludes the object, object excludes the subject, because subject is something which doesn't include object. Second thing is, subject is related to object. It doesn't include, but it is relative. See the note. If it includes, then subject-object duality disappears. Subject includes the object, object includes the subject, then subject-object duality disappears, and you will be like in deep sleep. Here we say subject is subject and not the object. Second thing is, subject is related to object, object is related to subject. Here Siddhanti told, even the subjecthood is a relative. Since it is relative, Atma itself is free from even that relative status of being a subject. Atma is free from the relative status of even being a subject. Okay. It is non-dual. Like in deep sleep. Deep sleep can't be referred by any word. No word applies there. It transcends all language, because it transcends all relationships, all referability. Language means referability. Mind, referability is conceivability. Vak and mind. Speech, we say Atma is beyond speech and mind. Mind, conceivability. Word is a referability. Word means referability. Mind means conceivability. Atma is beyond conception, beyond reference. Any reference requires some relationship, either comparison or contrast, some definition. That words function in a relationship. It's a given thing. It is like this, such and such. You either explain the quality, or you talk in terms of relationship, or some action of it. So, language also functions under certain conditions. Okay. A word refers, the referability comes into vogue. Referability requires certain conditions. Under that conditions alone, that word refers. When Atma is beyond referability, means it is beyond all those conditions. That is Dravya Guna, Sambandha Kriya. These things we have studied or we may study later. Dravya, Guna, Kriya, Sambandha. These are the factors taking which the language operates. Take a substance, or a quality, or an action, or a relation. Taking these factors, language operates, words operate. The parts of speech refer to one of these qualities alone, one of these factors alone. Substance, quality, action, and a relationship. So these are etc. These are the few factors taking help based upon which a language operates. So Sushupti is such which can't be talked about in any way. Sushupti as it is, coming to waking, looking from the waking standpoint, you may talk. See, looking from the waking standpoint, you may talk. How do you talk? By comparing, by contrasting with the waking experiences. In waking state, there is a subject, there is a consciousness of subject, consciousness of object. There is a time, there is space, there are relationships, all these things. So mind can think. So from this waking standpoint, you contrast to Sushupti, say, there is no subject-object duality, there is no time, there is no place, nothing. Therefore, we say Sushupti is blank. What do you mean by blank? When you say blank, you are only negating the waking experience. Sushupti is unlike waking. It is unlike waking because waking experiences don't obtain in deep sleep. Deep sleep is there, but how, what? Unable to explain. You only say it's blank. Means it is not an experience of a given thing like in waking state. It is unlike waking state. Therefore, from the waking standpoint, you are contrasting with waking and explaining it, that it is a blank or that it is a past experience. Whatever you say, we are telling from the waking standpoint alone. How Sushupti looks from the waking mind. But here one interesting thing is, waking mind is defining, trying to figure out what is waking, what is deep sleep. Waking mind is trying to present, trying to conceive, and trying to explain through words. No word, the Sushupti doesn't yield to any word, any referability. Sushupti doesn't yield to any conception. Yet mind is trying to conceive, in some manner it is trying to conceive. It is finding hard, it is finding very difficult to explain, but it is trying in its own way. But the simple factor is, mind itself doesn't exist. When the mind doesn't exist, what can mind say anything about deep sleep? That's a simple thing, simple and straight thing. Where the mind itself doesn't exist, whatever the waking states, whatever the waking mind says, it is only, it is going to be wrong. When the waking mind doesn't exist, waking mind exists and tries to interpret the deep sleep through the categories of waking mind's thought, waking mind's functioning. Waking mind means mind only. Mind functions in a particular way. It conceives certain things. Beyond that, it can't conceive. Therefore, it is trying to figure out deep sleep through the categories of waking mind. Through the categories, it is trying to conceive. It's like this, like this, like this. Whatever you say, thing is, whatever the various alternatives you are imagining, you are trying to conceive, the very conceiving mind ceases to be there. Even to say mind ceases, you require the mind again. To say that, you require the waking state to say that mind ceases. Because even to say mind ceases, you assume the mind and negate it. You assume the mind and negate it. That again is a function of mind. But if you ask directly, stay in the waking deep sleep and say what it is. Silence. Nothing can be stated, because to state there is no speech. To think there is no mind. Silence. Silence means there is no mind to think. There is no word, there is no speech to speak. There is no referability. It is just itself, that's all, non-duality. So therefore, the Atma nature which is beyond referability, beyond conception. Now, conception means we say two types of conception. One is natural, swabhavika conception. That is aham pratyaya. I, individual, imagine, think. One is imagine and think. This is by will. Consciously, deliberately, I imagine and think. There is another kind of thought in us which we don't consciously think, but we find ourselves with a conception. See the difference? Let me define again. One is I imagine, I think, I conceive. Another is I don't conceive. I don't consciously think, but I find myself in a thought. This is a swabhavika adhyasa. A swabhavika instinctive thought, you find yourself with it. It is not an entertained thought, but it is a thought you find with. See the difference? You entertain a thought, you will a thought, you imagine is one thing. Another is you have a thought, you find yourself with it. You find a thought, that's all. You are not consciously entertaining. You have no choice to have a thought and dismiss a thought. That is aham buddhi. Waking state. Waking state is a thought. That I notion is a thought. Subject is a thought. Object is a thought. These thoughts I am not consciously entertaining out of my will. I find myself with these thoughts. These are swabhavika adhyasa, an instinctive thoughts. An instinctive thoughts. Okay, instinctive notion. One is willed notion, willed ideas. Consciously you entertain certain imaginations, ideas, you imagine. Here you are not imagining, you find yourself with a notion of I. Isn't it? See this difference. There are two kinds of thoughts. One are entertained thoughts, other thought is you find yourself with it. You have no choice over them, you have them, that's all. You are in it. That's why we call them swabhavika adhyasa. Instinctively you find with them, they have no beginning. They have no beginning. Like time doesn't begin. Time is beginningless. You find a conception, an experience of time. You have no choice. You have no freedom. You can't use your will to stop the time, because it is there. Just as the whole waking state, you find yourself in the waking. You have not consciously entered into waking state, because the you one who enters is already part of waking state. The individual, the subject is there. It is choiceless. Therefore, swabhavika adhyasa, an instinctive and not personally willed, but you find yourself in this state. So this I notion, that I am, and I face the world. World means not a given object. We talk of world in general. What is that? A idam thought, a thought of this. Idam thought. In Sanskrit, idam means subject, idam. Idam and aham, subject and object, are like two faces of the same paper. You take the same paper, one side subject, another side object, they are interrelated, interdependent. One can't exist without the other. So in your waking state, you find yourself to be subject facing an object. So the subject is an individuality in relation with the object. You are always aware of something and you aware of something. There is something other than you, subject and object. So this is our condition. But Vedanta says, even this instinctive subjecthood, which is related to object, instinctive subjecthood, that is a notion of I, is also adhyasa. Adhyasa means It is not, Adhyasa means it is no doubt a notion. It is a notion. It is a notion in contrast with the entertained notions. It is instinctive notion, natural notion. It is instinctive notion, no doubt. It is swabhavika. It is instinctive thought, yet it is adhyasa. Adhyasa means it doesn't pertain to Atma. It is not nature of Atma. Atma, the self-existing consciousness, the self-existence, the being, the pure existence is without a notion of I. I is related to object. I is subject which is related to object. Atma is not related to something. Atma is not a subject which is relative to something. Itself is, that's all. You can't say Atma is neither subject nor object, but it is. Even to say the is, again you require mind, but Atma itself is independent of even this thought of I, thought of existence. It is just self-existent. Therefore, Atma is self-existent without any notion. The notion, the most instinctive notion, the primary notion is aham buddhi, notion of I. That is notion of subject. Subject in relation with object. And here he says, Vedantin told that even that subjecthood is anatma, it is adhyasa. Atma itself is free from even this relative notion of subjecthood. Because subject is a relativeness. Now the Purvapakshi says, why are you telling that subjecthood is not Atma? Atma must be a subject. See the Purvapakshi, note it, it's not Vedanta. It's not Vedanta, it is a Purvapakshi. A view other than Vedanta. Non-Vedantins view. It is not Siddhanta. It's not a final conclusion. It is a proposed view, a tentative view, and it is not yet finalized. What Purvapakshi says, Nanu ahamartha eva atma bhavatu. Let us say the very subjecthood is Atma. Why do you say? Subjecthood is adhyasa. Subjecthood is a notion and it is an adhyasa. Adhyasa means it doesn't pertain to Atma. It is a notion and it is not the nature of Atma. It is imposed upon the Atma, but not a nature of Atma. It is instinctive, no doubt, but not the nature. Why do you say this? Let us say the subjecthood is the nature of Atma. Because you always find a subjecthood. You never find free from subject. Because your subject is natural and instinctive. You are not consciously entertaining, nor you consciously get rid of your subjecthood. Because as a subject, you entertain all kinds of thoughts. As an aham notion, as an I thought, you entertain all kinds of thoughts. But I notion itself, you have not entertained. You find yourself with it. See the difference? I notion, you are not entertaining. You find yourself with it. You have no choice over it. As an I notion, as an I means that capital I, alphabet I. As an I start thinking. I start thinking, I start imagining, I start learning, knowing, everything. But the I is there. I is there which thinks and imagines, knows, sees, hears and all that. Therefore, I is naturally there. It is beyond your will, nor you can get rid of it. Since it is beyond your will and instinctive, why don't we accept aham notion alone, that subjecthood alone is Atma? Why do you say that is Adhyasa? See, he's putting a fundamental question. Purvapakshi, Nanu ahamartha eva atma bhavatu. I have a habit of repeating so that you can have a very, at least even the Manda Madhyama Adhikari, lowest student also can grasp. Okay. Kimatra aham pratyayino api adhyasa varnanena. Why do you describe Why do you call even this I notion? This subjecthood is also Adhyasa. Subjecthood is also Adhyasa. Why do you say? That means what is referred by I notion? I notion is one thing. What is referred by I notion means what is in the sphere of I notion. What is referred by I notion? Whatever comes to your experience through the I notion. How much? What much? I don't know how to say. What all comes through that I notion? It comprehends a certain thing. And that, why do you say that is Adhyasa? Because Atma itself doesn't come under the sphere of I notion. I notion cannot refer to. I notion fails. That I notion, that word I fails. Aham pratyaya, aham shabda. Both of them fail. They just drop off. They get dismissed. Then what remains is Svatasiddha Atma. Because the I notion doesn't work there, doesn't reach Atma. I notion doesn't comprehend Atma. I notion is a false attribution, is a false notion about the Atma. It doesn't represent the true notion of Atma. Why? Because Atma is not conceivable. Neither a natural instinctive concept, neither an instinctive notion, nor a willed notion, imagined notion. Notions are two. Thoughts are two. One is an imagined thought, another is instinctive thought. Atma is available neither for an imagined thought nor for an instinctive thought. Even instinctive thought also doesn't conceive Atma. Instinctive thought also is a wrong instinctive thought. It is an instinctive natural thought, but it is a wrong thought because it is not true to the Atma. How? Because the thought fails. Atma survives. Thought disappears in deep sleep. Atma survives. Therefore, that thought doesn't continue continuously with the Atma. Therefore, the thought doesn't represent Atma. Siddhanti says this. And he says, yes, Aham thought alone really conceives Atma. It is an instinctive thought. No doubt it is not an entertained thought. Consciously entertained thought. It is an instinctive thought, you find yourself with it. Since it is instinctively found, Purvapakshi says it cannot be negated. You are never free from I thought. See, I think all non-Advaitins, Vishishtadvaitins, Dvaitins say like this. Atma is always in association with I notion. Even in deep sleep, I notion is there. See, this is what they say. I notion is there in deep sleep. Atma is always in association with I notion. In fact, I notion is not an additional. Vedantins say, Advaitins say, I notion is an extraneous to Atma. I notion is not a part of Atma. They say, I notion or subjecthood, I notion or subjecthood is an essential part of Atma. It is unnegatable. It can't be removed. Because in waking and dream state, I notion is of course there, which everybody accepts. But one more point is, even in deep sleep, there is I notion. There is a subjecthood to the Atma. It continues. This is what they say. All non-Advaitins say. Advaitins says, in deep sleep is the one where I notion fails. It doesn't exist. Atma exists independent of I notion. Subjecthood. They say subjecthood or I notion follows, continues even in deep sleep. So, I notion or subjecthood exists in waking, exists in dream, also continues in deep sleep. In all three states, that I notion continues. Therefore, I notion is the nature of Atma. I notion doesn't leave Atma. I notion is not extraneous to Atma. This is what they say. You see the difference? It is a Purvapakshi. In between, I am adding Siddhanti also. Siddhanti says, I notion is an Adhyasa. Purvapakshi says, it is not imposed one. It is Atma. It is an essential part of Atma. It cannot be separated from the Atma. subjecthood or I notion cannot be separated from the Atma. Atma always finds it. Vedantins say it is instinctive, no doubt. It is not entered. Oh. There is a difficulty. Oh, Rama, Rama, Rama. The Facebook got disconnected due to failure of internet connection. So I have to stop. I don't know what to do. Let us see. Probably the connection may come. Abba, lucky. The internet connection is restored. Now let me continue. A few minutes. I have no patience much to speak, but anyway, a little 5 minutes. At least to give a thought to it. Non-Advaitins say, this is the difference. Advaitin and Dvaitins. I notion or subjecthood is no doubt not a consciously entertained thought. It is instinctive thought we accept. This everybody agrees. It is instinctive. Nobody entertains the I notion. Nobody entertains the consciously entertains subjecthood, a notion of subjecthood, but it is instinctively there. Up to this, we are all common, Advaitins, non-Advaitins. But Advaitins part here, the non-Advaitins say, this instinctive subjecthood, I notion, is the nature of Atma because it never leaves the Atma. Atma is never found to be free from I notion, never found to be free from subjecthood. See the difference? They say, you are never free from subjecthood. You are always subject in relation with object. You are never free from I notion. Non-Advaitins say. Therefore, their conclusion is, why not we say that is Atma? Advaitins no, they say no. Purvapakshi is arguing now, is trying to defend you. I notion is the nature of Atma. Atma can never be independent of, free from I notion. See, Purvapakshi says this. Tatha hi aham pratyaye mamaham janami iti pratyakshenaiva aham pratyaya vishayataya siddhaha. How? Because I notion is instinctively always there with us. We are never free from it. Tatha hi aham pratyaye mamaham janami. Moreover, I know myself. That means there is a self-consciousness. Self-consciousness means what? I notion is self-conscious. I notion is conscious. See, I notion and it's a consciousness. Conscious I notion, they talk of it. Conscious I notion. Vedantins is pure consciousness without I notion. That's different. That we'll discuss later. Now, Purvapakshi says, I notion is always self-conscious. I notion is self-conscious. See, surprising they say. I notion is self-conscious. Pratyakshenaiva. It is a direct thought. Everybody has. Subjecthood. I am a subject. I am a subject. I am always aware of the object. I am a subject. It is always there. Nacha aham pratyayo vyamohaha. This I notion or subjecthood is not adhyasa. Is not a misunderstanding. Who says? Purvapakshi. Purvapakshi says, I notion is not a misunderstanding. Badaka abhavat, because there is no experience in you which shows that you are free from I notion, free from subjecthood. You have no experience in your life ever where you can be free from I notion. I notion all the time follows you. All the time is inseparable, inevitably with you. It is invariable. you don't have an experience in life where you are free from I notion. Then what about deep sleep? Of course, in deep sleep, I notion is there. That's what they say. They say, even in deep sleep, I don't know anything. There is a thought. The I thought continues. This is a strange thing. I thought continues to exist in deep sleep. Subjecthood is there. This is what all non-Advaitins say. Okay? You see, do Viveka for yourself. Badaka abhava. There is no bada. If you have an experience wherein you are free from subjecthood, free from I notion, you always have a conscious thought of I. I is a conscious thought. You have a conscious notion. I, subjecthood. You always have it. You are never free from it. If you have an experience free from it, then you can say aham pratyaya is mithya, is a false. Atma is independent of it. We could have told it, but such a thing doesn't exist. Purvapakshi says, okay, aham pratyaya vishayatvam api adhyastam bruvanoham aham brahmasmiti shruti vachanam api baditartha vishayameveti bruyat. 3 reasons he gives. Okay? See, one reason he says, badaka abhavat. There is no experience which negates. There is no experience which leaves out I notion. Which leaves out I notion, that means there is no experience of Atma where Atma exists by leaving out I notion. You see that? By leaving out I notion, Atma can exist. By leaving out subjecthood, Atma can exist. Such an experience nobody has. Therefore, no badaka. You can't negate I notion. I notion exists. One point. Second point. Now, Purvapakshi's second argument is, you may say Advaitin, but Tattvamasi Aham Brahmasmi is there. Shastra is telling Aham Brahmasmi. Therefore, the Aham word, Aham Brahmasmi is telling that you are free from Aham Buddhi. Purvapakshi says, Aham Brahmasmi doesn't mean that I notion is not there. Aham Brahmasmi says I notion is there. See, all non-Advaitins say, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham means I am. That I notion is there. That I notion is Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi is not negating I notion. I notion it is retaining. It is referring to I notion. It is referring to I notion and telling that I notion is Brahma. Purvapakshi says that I notion is Brahma. Subjecthood is Brahma. It is not negating it. You are misinterpreting Aham Brahmasmi. See, Purvapakshi says, Aham pratyaya vishayatvam bruvano, Aham Brahmasmi iti shruti vachanam api baditartam. Then, do you mean to say that Aham Brahmasmi is also a false statement? Aham Brahmasmi is Upanishad is telling. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, first chapter, Aham Brahmasmi. That means Upanishad itself is referring to Atma as Aham, I notion. Upanishad is referring to Atma through I notion. That means Upanishad accepts that Atma has I notion, unlegatable I notion, invariable I notion. It is there all the time with it. That means when you say that I notion is not there with Atma, then what will you do about Aham Brahmasmi? Aham Brahmasmi statement you are leaving aside. You are throwing out. You are going against Aham Brahmasmi statement. See how Purvapakshi interprets. I don't know, am I confusing you? This is Purvapakshi, remember. How Vedantin says, we'll see later. This is second reason. First reason, it can never be negated. Second reason, you will be, if you say, I notion is mithya, wrong. I notion is a misunderstanding. It is not Atma. Then you will be going against Upanishad. One reason, you have no experience. Second reason, you are going against Upanishadic statement. Third reason, you are calling Krishna as wrong. Krishna is mithya. Krishna is under Brahma. Because Bhagavan Krishna says, what does he say? Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayastata. Sri Krishna, when he is teaching Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, all the time refers Aham, Aham, Aham. Sri Krishna himself is referring as Aham. That means Bhagavan has got Aham Buddhi, I notion. I notion, subjecthood God has. Jiva also has I notion. Ishvara also has I notion. How dare you deny that there is no I notion to Ishvara and Jiva? Purvapakshi is telling, remember, not Siddhanti. I notion is there to Ishvara. I notion, because Ishvara knows I am Ishvara. Jiva knows I am Jiva. Both of them have I notion. How do you say you are free from I notion? If you say, what happens? It goes against experience. It goes against Upanishad. And you are unnecessarily calling Krishna as a liar. You call Bhagavan Krishna as a liar. Bhagavan Krishna himself told that Aham, I am Krishna, I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara created the world. If Bhagavan Krishna did not have I notion, how would he speak? He spoke with his own words that I am Krishna, I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara. That means he has an I notion. You Advaitins are talk anything as you like it. Listen to this. Sri Krishna himself told, I am Ishvara. That means he is referring to himself through I notion. He has I notion. Jiva has, Ishvara has. Okay. Now you Advaitins get lost. You are wrong. Purvapakshi says. Okay. Aham Krishnasya. Therefore, when Bhagavan Krishna is referring to himself through I notion, through the subjecthood, and you are say that Sri Krishna api Yogishwaram Bhrantajana Kotau Vinikshipet. You call Sri Krishna is also under illusion. Sri Krishna is also under Bhranti, under misunderstanding. Then if you say Aham Pratyaya is Adhyasa, three mistakes you are doing. One is, it is against experience. You have no experience where you can get rid of I notion. Second thing is, you are falsifying Upanishad. You are going against Upanishad. Third thing is, you are calling Krishna as Bhranti, Bhranta Purusha. Krishna is under illusion. This is too much. You Advaitins are too much fellows. You unacceptable things you talk. You are Avaidika fellows, you talk anything nonsense. Is finding fault with Advaitins. Okay? Vinikshipet. Ataha pratyaksha viruddham, shrutismriti viruddham, cha idam adhyasa varnanamiti. Therefore, pratyaksha anubhava viruddha, shruti viruddha, and Bhagavan Sri Krishna's, it is viruddha against Krishna's statement. Therefore, aham pratyaya adhyasa is wrong. You say this Purvapaksha, Dvaitins will be immensely happy. Abba, this is what we wanted. This is what is our Siddhanta. Okay. Now the Siddhanti Advaitin replies, Satchidanandendra Swamiji, on behalf of Advaitins, he replies, Naitat sadhuchyate. You said something wrong. What you say is not acceptable, is wrong. We shall show you your Anubhava. We'll interpret Aham Brahmasmi statement. What is the Shruti says that? And why Bhagavan Krishna used it. All the three we will explain and show you. Atma is free from I notion, free from Aham Pratyaya, free from subjecthood. Atma is neither subject nor object, it is itself, non-dual. What a beautiful thing. Atma is just itself. No words explain, no conception. No conception, no notion can apply to Atma. No notion can be applied to Atma. Neither I notion nor you notion. All notions drop off. Atma is independent. Atma is drop off means what? Notions are inapplicable. Atma stands notionless. No notion is applicable to Atma. Atma stands notionless, self-existing. Itself there, self-shining, that's all. This, to explain this again, time is not enough. I have started very late. I think we may have to put up with for few more days with my ill health. I'll do only half an hour or 40 minutes like this, few more days until I get well. Okay, we'll answer. But you got the Purvapakshis mistake. At least you have seen that where Purvapakshi is. Think over this thing, how Vedantin shows the defect of Purvapakshi and points out. If you understand these things, instantly you understand Brahman. Even Aham Pratyaya is Mithya, then you are Brahman. Instantly you stand as Brahman. Abba, this is a very beautiful answer. We'll see the answer in the next class. Next class means it will take, I think, Tuesday, Wednesday again. You have to wait for 4 or 5 days. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Narayana.